The sun was setting over New York. The sky was golden, and the wind was soft. Kids played in the park. A couple held hands near a street cafe. Old men laughed while watching chess games. It was just another normal evening on Earth. Nobody knew. It would be the last one. Suddenly, the sky blinked. Like someone had switched off the stars. Birds flew in panic. Cell phones stopped working. TVs went black. The internet vanished. Then came the sound. A low hum, deep, powerful, unnatural. People looked up. In the sky. Started burning. A massive ship appeared, not one, not two, but hundreds. Dark, silent, and terrifying. They didn't speak. They didn't send any warning. They didn't ask for surrender. They just fired one beam. And Tokyo vanished. Another. And Paris turned to ash. In just 10 minutes, 20 major cities were gone, millions dead. The world screamed, but there was no one listening. Earth's defense systems tried to respond. Jets took off. Missiles were launched, but nothing worked. The alien technology was too advanced. Human weapons bounced off their shields like toys. From space, Earth looked like it was bleeding. In an underground command center in Colorado, General Marcus slammed his fist on the table. Who are they? What do they want? Nobody answered. Not even the AI had any data on them. No records, no warnings. No message from space. Just fire. Just death. Civilians are dying. Shouted a young officer. They're not attacking military bases first, said another, eyes wide. They're hitting schools, hospitals, homes. It wasn't war. It was genocide. In London, a mother named Sarah tried to hide her 2 children in a subway tunnel. People screamed, running in every direction. The ground shook again and again. A nearby explosion made the tunnel collapse. Dust filled the air. Her daughter cried, "Mama, why are they doing this?" The child whispered. Sarah didn't have an answer. Back in the U.S., the president's message was simple. We have tried peace. We have offered friendship to the stars. And today, they answered us with fire. We will survive. We will rise. And we will never forget. But truth was, Earth had lost. In space, the alien ships slowly moved away after the attack. Not because they were afraid, but because their job was done. Aboard one of the ships, a tall, thin creature watched the Earth burning through a screen. His black eyes showed no emotion. Phase 1 complete, it said in a strange, clicking language. Why did we not ask for surrender? Asked a younger alien officer. The leader turned and spoke coldly. Because humans don't deserve mercy. But Earth wasn't finished. In a secret lab deep under Alaska, something stirred. A machine blinked to life for the first time in 20 years. A voice came from the darkness. Activate Phoenix Protocol. Across the world, hidden bunkers opened. Satellites hidden in deep orbit came online. Sleeper agents received messages. Report to base. Protocol activated. The world was bleeding. But it wasn't dead. It was changing. 3 days later, the alien leader received a strange message. It was short. Only one sentence. You wanted monsters? We'll show you monsters. And so began Earth's transformation. No more peace talks. No more hope for diplomacy. Humanity had been pushed into a corner. Now, it was ready to bite back. And the galaxy would never be the same. Ash fell like snow. 3 days had passed since the attack, and Earth was no longer the same. The skies were gray, filled with smoke. Entire cities had become ghostlands, quiet, broken, empty. Streets that once echoed with traffic and laughter now only whispered with the wind and distant cries. The world wasn't at war. It had already lost, and now only silence remained. In the ruins of what used to be Chicago, a young girl crawled from under a pile of twisted metal. Her name was Lena. She was 10 years old. Her arm was bleeding, and her legs shook, but her eyes didn't cry. They stared ahead, unblinking, like they had seen something too big to understand. Her house was gone. Her school, gone. Her parents. She didn't even have time to say goodbye. She walked for hours, through dust and bodies. No water. No food. Just quiet. She wasn't alone, not completely. Dogs barked in fear, birds flew in strange patterns, and once, she thought she saw someone watching from a rooftop. But when she called out, no one answered. Then, as the sun started to fall, a figure appeared. Tall, dressed in black armor. A mask covering the face. No flag, no name, no voice. Just quiet boots crunching on broken glass. Lena froze. The figure walked slowly, carefully, scanning the area. When he saw her, he didn't speak. He knelt down, reached into a pouch, and handed her a water bottle. She didn't ask who he was. She just drank. Then, without a word, he lifted her onto his back and carried her into the shadows. Beneath the ruined city, hidden under what used to be a library, a steel door opened. Bright lights flickered on. Soldiers stood in rows. Scientists checked machines. People in lab coats whispered into radios. It wasn't a military base. It was something older, something secret. Something the world had hoped it would never need. Again. Project Phoenix. 20 years ago, after humans made contact with aliens, Earth had feared something like this could happen. So a few leaders, quietly and without public approval, built the Phoenix Protocol, a survival plan, not for diplomacy, not for peace, but for the day Earth would burn. That day had come. The silent soldier who rescued Lena had no name in the records. Just a number. Echo 7. He never spoke. Nobody had ever heard his voice. But he followed orders, saved lives, and never hesitated. People in the bunker began to call him the Ghost. While the world above cried, the underground world began to move. Maps of enemy ship patterns. Messages from survivors. Hidden satellites still in orbit. Everything was being gathered. Earth was bleeding, yes. But beneath the wounds, something was waking up. And then they captured an alien. Pilot, injured when his ship crashed near the Rocky Mountains, was dragged into the underground facility. Tall, with gray skin and narrow eyes, the creature looked more confused than afraid. It had never imagined being caught alive. These humans were supposed to be extinct, but they weren't. They stood around him, scientists, soldiers, even a Kosa. Few children who had nowhere else to go. They didn't scream. They didn't hit him. They just stared, cold, focused, like he was a puzzle they were solving. The interrogation didn't happen with shouting or pain. It happened with silence. One screen was turned on. It showed the pilot's fleet destroying Earth cities, his own ship's attack. The alien looked away. Another screen showed human children pulling the bodies of their parents out of rubble. The third screen showed nothing. Just one sentence. We begged for peace. You answered with fire. Now we answer. The alien spoke finally. In a cracked, unsure voice, he asked, "Why are you not afraid?" A human commander stepped forward. His face was tired, his eyes hollow. "We were afraid," he said softly. "That was your mistake. You thought fear makes us weak, but fear just makes us faster." Above them, in space, the alien fleets continued to orbit Earth. They thought their job was done. They thought humanity was finished. They were wrong. Across the globe, in bunkers like this one, other survivors began to move. Not many, just enough. Soldiers with no families left. Hackers who broke every rule. Scientists who had once worked on weapons banned by every nation. And one machine, old, powerful, buried for decades. Finally, online again, the AI known only. As Odin came back to life, "I have waited long enough," it said in a cold, digital voice. "Are you ready to begin?" The commander nodded. "No more hiding, no more messages. Prepare the signal." "What signal?" asked a young technician. Commander looked up at the ceiling as if he could see the sky. The last message we send to the stars. That night, the aliens above Earth received a short burst of data, a simple recording. The video showed Earth burning, and then showed the survivors staring into the camera, silent. And at the end, just 4 words, "Now we stop being civilized." The galaxy had taken Earth's kindness as weakness. Now, it would see what happens when kindness runs out, and what rises from the ashes of the fallen world. Is not peace its revenge? Asterisk. The galaxy had watched Earth burn. They had seen the explosions from far-off observatories. They had intercepted the silence after the destruction. They had heard nothing from humanity, and they assumed it was over. But it wasn't over, it was. Just beginning. 7 days after the attack, something strange happened. A cargo ship belonging to the Thalrax Empire, the same species that led the genocide, vanished without a trace. No distress call, no debris, just gone. The next day, a listening post near the edge of Sector 14 reported a signal. Not in any known alien language, it was in English. "We see you," the message repeated 4 times. Then silence. The aliens laughed. They called it a ghost signal. They said humans were finished. Just broken bones floating in the dark. They were wrong. Again, in a small asteroid belt near Jupiter, hidden behind rocks and shielded from detection, Earth's first counterattack was preparing. Not a large fleet. Just 4 ships, small, quiet, fast, not made for defense. Built for one purpose only. Hit, destroy, disappear. Inside one of the ships, Commander Vale stood before his squad. His armor was black and covered with names of the cities that were gone: Nairobi, Berlin, Delhi, Los Angeles. He didn't give a long speech. He didn't need to. "They hit us first," he said simply. "We hit back. No warnings, no mercy." The squad nodded. Their faces were emotionless, not cold, not cruel, just tired. Done with pretending to be civilized. And then, the signal came. Target, Thalrax Colony Ship 09. Location, Outer Ring, traveling at 0.5 light. The human ships moved in silence. No radio chatter. No blinking lights. Like sharks in deep water. The colony ship was massive. It carried over 30,000 Thalrax citizens, workers, soldiers, younglings. It was a symbol of power, of growth, of victory. Within 20 seconds, it became a symbol of fear. The first human strike didn't come from lasers or cannons. It came from inside the ship. A virus. Coded by Earth's best hackers, delivered by a fake supply beacon. Once inside the ship's system, it shut down life support, closed all emergency exits, locked the bridge, then turned on the ship's internal gravity field to maximum. Everything inside was crushed. The ship floated quietly, looking untouched from the outside. Then a message was carved into its hull using a nanobot swarm: "We don't forget." The news spread fast across the galaxy. The Thalrax demanded an explanation. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from peaceful species debated about whether humanity had become dangerous. They had no idea what was coming, because Earth wasn't trying to scare them. Earth was hunting them. In just 6 days, 4 more Thalrax ships disappeared. Not destroyed, erased. No trace, no survivors, no escape. And then, something even stranger happened. Other alien species, the ones who had stood by and watched Earth burn, began to receive messages too. Some were short recordings, children screaming. Others were images of Earth's ruins. One message, sent to over 50 neutral planets, simply said, "You watched us die. Now you will watch us rise." Fear began to spread. Not because humanity was strong, but because they were angry. And they were smart. And they were quiet. Quiet is dangerous. The Galactic Council finally tried to reach out. A peaceful broadcast was sent toward Earth. It said, We regret the loss of life. We are willing to talk. Let us restore peace and balance. Let us build a new future together. Earth didn't reply with a message. They replied with an attack. This time, it was not stealth. It was not silent. It was loud, direct, and full of rage. A fleet of 30 human ships, painted with black ash and powered by engines not seen before, launched a full assault on a Thalrax military base orbiting planet Drakkar. The base had never been breached in 200 years. It lasted 13 minutes. Human soldiers moved like shadows. Their weapons melted alien armor. Their drones screamed through the air like banshees. They didn't take prisoners. They didn't stop to collect data. They left only destruction. After it was over, the only message they left behind was burned into the stone with a plasma torch. This is what you started. Across the galaxy, governments began shutting down their spaceports. Trade routes were changed. Diplomatic missions were canceled. Even the bravest species, the ones who had once mocked humans, now whispered in fear. They're not fighting for survival anymore. They're fighting because they remember. And the Thalrax, for the first time in centuries, were afraid. Their leader, Lord Scheideron, sat in his grand throne room, surrounded by advisors. We underestimated them. One whispered. We should have wiped them out completely, said another. But the oldest advisor, a wrinkled four-eyed female, said something no one wanted to hear. You didn't just create enemies. You created monsters. They begged for peace. You gave them genocide. Now you will see what becomes of a species with nothing left to lose. Somewhere in deep space, aboard the human flagship, Vengeance, Commander Vale received a new target. He smiled for the first time in weeks. Let's go remind them why Earth was called the cradle of war. Humanity wasn't fighting for peace anymore. They had moved past hope. Now they were making history. One burning ship at a time. Asterisk, the stars were no longer silent. Every day, another ship vanished. Another planet burned. Another species remembered why they had once feared humans, not for their strength, but for what they became when their hearts turned cold. This wasn't war anymore. This was memory made into fire. In the ruins of the Andali Archives, the greatest alien knowledge library in the galaxy, 3 human soldiers walked through flames and broken statues. One of them, Private Isha, carried a small steel box. She placed it on the only shelf still standing. Inside the box was a recording. No code, no traps. Just a video. A child crying beside her mother's body. The same video was placed in 9 other ancient sites across space. The message was always the same. We remember everything. Back on Earth, or what remained of it, deep under the frozen Arctic, Command Station Polaris was still running. The world above was quiet now. Burned cities, abandoned highways, shattered nations. But underground, humanity had become something else, faster, smarter, unforgiving. The central AI, Odin, monitored hundreds of signals, each one a different mission. Some were sabotage. Some were infiltration. Some were reminders. Inside a Cold War room, Commander Vale and Director Kira watched the live feed of Operation Emberlight. A group of humans, dressed in civilian alien clothing, had snuck into a Thalrax city, one of their richest and safest. They didn't bring bombs. They brought stories. On every wall, they painted faces. Human faces, children, mothers, fathers, burned, screaming, dying. Every building was marked with their names. And when the local police came, there was no resistance. The humans held up their hands and said only one thing. Tell your people we're not here for peace. We're here to make sure no one ever forgets. They were executed on the spot, but the message had already spread. The images were live-streamed to hundreds of alien channels, civilian networks, education systems, even children's screens. Some alien parents rushed to cover their children's eyes. Too late. The human faces stared back at them, and the names began to stick in their minds. Elena M., age 5, burned in her sleep. Darius K., age 38, died shielding his students. Fatima S., age 11, buried alive in rubble. This wasn't terrorism. It was remembrance. Weaponized. A slow, choking kind of justice. Even peaceful alien species began to question their silence. On planet Cyrn, a public protest erupted. Thousands marched holding signs saying, "We should have spoken when Earth screamed." Their government called for calm. Earth, DIDN, single quotes D.Earth, called for judgment, on a cold red moon circling Yalrex 4. Another alien city was hit, not by bombs, but by sound. Massive speakers, dropped from stealth drones, began to play human voices. Real recordings from the day of the attack. A woman praying. A baby crying. A soldier screaming for backup that never came. And finally, silence. The aliens destroyed the speakers. But the sound lived on in their minds. They couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. Because they had heard it now. What humanity heard before they burned. In the shadows of space, Earth's Black Ops unit, known as the Forgotten, operated without orders. They needed none. Made up of survivors who had lost everything, they moved like ghosts. Each carried a simple weapon, a memory chip. When they killed a high-value alien target, they didn't leave a trace. Just the chip. A small cube that, when activated, showed one thing. A short clip of that target laughing or celebrating Earth's destruction. Followed by a video of that same alien's family receiving the news of their death. Humans didn't hide their brutality. They shared it. And yet, they never lied. They didn't say they were heroes. They didn't claim to be right. They just remembered, and made the galaxy remember too. In the council halls of Valor Prime, a special session was held. Representatives from over 200 alien civilizations gathered, not to plan peace, but to beg for it. Screens lit up. A live message from Earth's AI played. The voice was calm, male, human-like. But it was not human. "I am Odin. You ignored us. When we called for help, you watched when we burned. Now we show you what happens when memory becomes mission." A pause, then the voice continued. "Some of you say humans are now monsters. You are right, but you made us this way. You don't get to destroy us and then complain about who we became." No reply came, not from the council. Not from the Thalrax. Not from anyone, because what could they say? The stars weren't silent anymore. They were full of whispers. Of human names, of human pain, of cities turned to dust, and of cold, quiet revenge. One Thalrax senator finally stood up and asked the question everyone feared. How far will they go? No one answered. Because in the dark, above the galaxies, richest trade routes, a new kind of ship had appeared. Black as night, no windows, no sound. Only one marking on its hull. A list of names, glowing softly in red. Inside the ship, a human child, orphaned, trained, and silent, pressed a button, and another empire screamed. Back in the ruins of Earth, the stars were finally visible again. No pollution, no lights. Just clean, cold sky. Lena, the little girl once saved by Echo 7, stood outside the bunker now. She was taller, stronger. In her hand, she held a small device that played a song from before the war. Laughter and music and dancing. She didn't cry. She didn't smile either. She whispered the words. Her people now lived by. We remember everything. And as another alien world dimmed behind her, the message was sent once more into the stars. No peace. No truce. Just memory. On fire. Asterisk. There are things older than war. Older than peace. Older than Earth itself. The galaxy called them gods, not out of love, but out of fear. They didn't rule planets. They didn't lead armies. They simply existed. Watching, waiting, balancing. When species broke the natural order, when wars lasted too long, or a race became too violent, these beings would come. Not to punish, to reset. And now, after thousands of years of silence, they stirred again, because something was wrong. Something was loud. Earth. The flames had reached too far. The fear had grown too fast. The balance was tilting. Species were abandoning their faith, closing their borders, hiding in bunkers they never thought they'd need. And so, the gods of the stars awoke. One by one. The first was called Verukai, the Watcher of Life. Her form was made of light and clouds. She stood on a moon made of crystal and looked down upon the galaxy like a disappointed mother. The second, Corvix the Silence, arrived days later, a being of smoke and ancient metal who could erase thoughts with a blink. The third, oldest, and most feared was the Architect, the creator of the Thalrax bloodline. It was said he could crush planets by closing his hand. They met in a realm where time didn't move, where gravity bowed before them. The Architect spoke first. The humans have become something unnatural. Verukai's voice was like singing. Wind, they were kind once. Corvix said nothing. He only turned, and 1,000 stars flickered in fear. They reached a decision. Without debate. Intervention. Earth received no warning. There were no fleets. No energy readings. No signs of movement in space. Just a single pulse. Felt everywhere at once, in every mind, every machine, every cell. People stopped breathing for half a second. Some called it a dream. Others, a command. The message was simple. Kneel. But Earth no longer spoke the language of obedience. Above Mars, where Earth's rebuilt command center orbited in the shadows, alarms began to ring. Someone was entering the system, but it didn't match any known technology. It wasn't even a ship. It was a shape, a floating structure of shifting geometry. Looking at it hurt the eyes. Inside the station, Commander Vale stood before a screen that showed nothing, only static. But somehow they knew it was here. Odin, the eye, confirmed what no one wanted to say. A god has entered Sol. No panic. No shock. Just quiet preparation. Because Earth had planned for this too. They knew this day would come, when not just empires, but the stars themselves would try to silence them. They had built something, a final defense. Project Oblivion, not a weapon. Not exactly. More like a choice. On the outer edge of Jupiter's orbit, a black sphere the size of a small city began to hum. It had no crew, no windows. It was made from dead neutron star fragments, wrapped in gravity fields. Inside it was something new, something born not from human hope, but from human pain. A weapon that erased presence. It didn't kill. It didn't explode. It removed you, past, present, and future, like you never existed. Earth had made it as a last resort. Now it was live. When the first god, Verukai, entered Earth space, she didn't come with fire. She came with sorrow. Her voice reached every human mind. "You are lost children," she said. "You burn too bright. You must stop now, or be stopped." And then, for the first time in 1,000 years, she felt something strange. Laughter. From billions of humans. Not joyful. Not mocking. Empty laughter. Tired. Dangerous. Commander Vale stood in the command deck, eyes locked on the silent stars. "You're not our gods," he said. Verukai appeared before him, not in body, but in light. "You were born from dust. We shaped the blood that made you, and we reshaped ourselves from the ashes you let fall on us." Her face dimmed. "Why won't you stop?" Vale didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He just looked at her and whispered, "Because no one came when we screamed." And with that, he gave the order. Oblivion fired. There was no beam, no explosion, just silence. A silence so pure, so deep. That sound itself forgot how to exist for 3 full seconds. Verukai vanished. Her memory erased. Her name forgotten by the stars. Only humans remembered. They chose to. The galaxy trembled. For the first time in history, a god had fallen. On the council planets, panic exploded. "What have they done?" one ambassador cried. "They've killed a being that was older than time." Another whispered, "They didn't just kill her, they deleted her." The architect, deep in the black heart of a dying sun, felt the shift. His creation, the Thalrax, had made a mistake. They had broken. A child that never truly wanted to fight. And now, that child had become something even the gods feared. The architect prepared to enter Soul, but he hesitated, because somewhere, out there in the deep, humanity's last message echoed, "We were kind once." And those words, more than any weapon, made even a god pause. On Earth, in the ruins of what used to be Cape Town, a little girl named Lena stood in the ash. A group of survivors had gathered. There were no cameras, no commanders, just people. She stood up on a broken car and read from a piece of old paper. "My father said we should never forget who we are. That we were once builders, dreamers, explorers. That we loved stories and music and stars." She looked up, but now the stars are scared of us. She didn't smile, she didn't cry, she just folded the paper. And the people nodded. Above her, unseen, the architect turned away. He would not face Earth. Not yet, maybe not ever. Because when gods get angry, they destroy. But when humans get angry, they remember. And they build their revenge carefully, like a fire that never dies. The galaxy was quiet, not peaceful, not calm, just quiet. Trade routes once filled with color and light were now empty, their stations dark. Planets that had been cities in the sky, with towers reaching past the clouds and songs sung in every language, now sat in silence, because everyone was waiting. Waiting for the next world to vanish, waiting for the next human message, waiting for a revenge they knew they deserved. And Earth was still not finished. The fall of Verukai, a being older than most suns, had shaken the stars. Some called it impossible, others called it blasphemy. But none dared deny it had happened. She was gone. And only Earth remembered her name. The gods had stepped in. And Earth had stepped over them. And now, even gods were afraid. But Earth was no longer afraid of anything. They had buried fear beside the bones of their cities. On the neutral world of Saritun, once a place of art and peace, the people gather in the grand hall to speak of surrender, not of war, not of negotiation. Just surrender. "We didn't attack Earth," the high voice said, her hands trembling. "We were not part of the genocide." Another counselor stood. "No, but we watched, and we said nothing. And now our silence is a target." That night, they sent a message to Earth, a plea, a promise. "We did not stand with your killers. Let us stand with you now. Spare us." There was no reply, but above their sky, a human stealth ship hovered for exactly 2 minutes, then left. It dropped no bombs, spoke no words, but every screen in the city lit up with a single sentence: "Where were you when we screamed?" On the Thalrax homeworld, panic had become routine. The empire was crumbling. Colonies had stopped responding. Generals were missing. And the common people, once so proud of their leaders, had started to revolt. They weren't protesting the humans. They were protesting the silence of their gods. Because when the killing began, they believed the divine would protect them. But now, even gods were dying, and the humans were still alive, still fighting, still remembering. Commander Vale stood aboard the Vengeance, Earth's mobile flagship. Drifting through the remains of a former Thalrax spaceport, the station had been taken days ago. Not destroyed, just emptied. Every computer copied, every soldier captured, every civilian relocated. And on every surface, from walls to control panels to the floors themselves, the humans had painted names. Names of Earth's dead, not in anger. In memory, because this was no longer war. This was education. They weren't just punishing the enemy, they were teaching the galaxy what it had ignored. Vale looked out the window at the drifting debris. Ships still floated, their hulls torn open like metal coffins. We used to be explorers, he whispered to no one. We used to want peace. Behind him, Odin's voice echoed softly. Peace was offered. It was refused. Vale nodded. Then we give them something else. Elsewhere in the void, far from any sun, a human research team activated Signal Echo. It was never meant to kill. It was designed to broadcast human pain, real pain, not screams, not threats, just moments. Children calling for mothers who would never answer. Teachers keeping students calm as fire rained from the sky. A nurse recording her final words before her hospital collapsed. They sent it across the stars. No encryption. No signature. Every species heard it. Every species cried. But Earth didn't cry anymore. They had already done that. Now they burned. Some species began to turn on each other. Accusations flew in alien parliaments. You funded the Thal Rax fleet. You traded weapons while Earth burned. You voted against intervention. Old alliances shattered. Worlds closed borders. Some began building shields. Others, armies. But none of it would matter, because Earth wasn't coming to conquer. They were coming to erase. The Galactic Council, once a proud seat of diplomacy, now stood in ruins, half its members missing. The others terrified. They begged Earth for a meeting. Let us speak, they pleaded. We want peace. We want to fix this. A reply finally came. A video. It showed a human boy, no older than 8, sitting in the rubble of a library. He held a book in his lap and looked up at the camera. I wanted to be a writer, he said softly. But I don't know what stories are anymore. I only know names now. Behind him, carved into stone, were thousands of names. Then the screen went black. That was the message. Earth did not want to talk. They wanted to be understood. And the only language they spoke now was memory and fire. On the moons of Drestar, the humans arrived without warning. No weapons. Just workers. Engineers, miners, diggers. They landed, set up machines, and began tearing into the planet's crust. When the local aliens demanded to know what they were doing, the human foreman simply replied, collecting material. For memorials, the aliens asked. Memorials for who? The foreman didn't look up. For everyone. For every single person we lost. The Drastari tried to resist. They were vaporized in 10 seconds. And then, work continued. By now, over 400 alien colonies had been wiped from the maps, not all by fire, some by sabotage, some by starvation, some just disappeared. No sound. No record. Just another line in Earth's growing list of responses. And through it all, one phrase kept appearing, on ships, on walls, in code, in song. No civilization left. It didn't mean humans wanted to destroy everyone. It meant they didn't see anyone as civilized anymore. Not after what was done. Back on Earth, in a rebuilt section of South America, a small community of survivors held a gathering. Lena, now a teenager, stood before them. She wore armor now, light, flexible, black as the sky. But in her hand, she still held the same old piece of paper, her father's message. She didn't speak loudly. Just enough for everyone to hear. We are not monsters, she said. We are memories that fight back. She looked at the stars above, and we will not stop. Not until every race that turned away feels what we felt. The people didn't cheer. They just nodded. And far above them, deep in space, Earth's newest fleet moved silently toward the Kumbi, the Lactic Core. Their mission wasn't to destroy planets. It was to erase names. Names of those who had watched, done nothing, and called themselves civilized. Earth had once asked for peace. Now it was writing history with fire. And in this new galaxy, there would be no civilization left. Only memory. Only consequence. Asterisk. The war didn't end. It simply stopped having targets. Planets fell quiet. Stations powered down. Trade routes became empty lanes of dust and echoes. The galaxy didn't surrender, it simply accepted. There was nothing left to say. Earth had stopped sending warnings, stopped naming names. The fire had burned through every lie, every excuse, every silent bystander. And now, there was only memory. In the corner of a forgotten system, on a quiet green planet. Named Avili, a young alien girl sat on the steps of a collapsed observatory. She was barely 12 cycles old. In her small, clawed hands, she held a strange device, metal, cracked, glowing with a faint blue light. Her grandfather had found it buried deep in the dirt while digging for roots. He told her, "It's from the old days, from before the silence." She pressed a button. The device clicked. HUMMED. Then began to play a video. A human child appeared on the screen, a boy, maybe 7 or 8. He was sitting on broken concrete, surrounded by ruins. Behind him, the skeleton of a city reached into the clouds like burned fingers. The boy spoke in a calm, small voice. "Before everything changed, we used to look up at the stars and dream." He paused. "We thought they were full of wonder, that there were friends up there, that we'd be welcomed." His eyes looked down for a moment. They didn't welcome us. The screen flickered. Clips flashed across it, quick, silent scenes. Children running through fire. A mother singing as the sky burned. A soldier screaming for help that never came. Aliens cheering as cities fell. Then silence. The boy's voice returned. "We asked for help. We begged. No one came." Another pause. "So, we stopped being human. We became something else." He looked into the camera now. And smiled. But it was not a child's smile. It was tired. Old. Like he had lived 10,000 lives in that one body. The girl watching the video didn't blink. Behind her, her grandfather stood still, his breathing slow and shallow. He had seen the fire when he was a boy. Not on his planet, but in the skies. He remembered the streaks of light, the broken signals, the rumors, the fear. Back then, he was told, "It's not our problem." Now he knew. It had become everyone's problem. In the shattered halls of the once mighty Thalrax Empire, their last council gathered around a dim table. No lights, no guards. Just silence. One of them asked, "What now?" No one answered, because Earth had already spoken, not through weapons, not through attacks. Through absence. They had stopped attacking, not out of mercy, out of completion. There were no more names left to remember. Every victim had been honored with a strike. Every cry had been answered. And now, there was only the last transmission. It arrived at once. Across the galaxy. Every screen, every signal, every machine capable of sound or light flickered and froze. Then changed. Black screen, white text. "To all species of the stars." A pause. "You watched us burn. You called yourselves civilized while our children screamed. You turned your backs, closed your eyes, and whispered, 'Not our war. You were wrong.'" The text faded, replaced by Earth itself, scarred, cracked, yet still turning, still alive. A new voice came now. Not a child's, not a soldier's. A voice made of thousands of recordings layered into one. Earth's voice. "We were peaceful. Once, you could have known us at our best. Now you have known us at our worst." The image faded to a massive wall of names, billions, stretching into infinity. Not just humans, but alien civilians, caught in the crossfire, sympathizers, survivors, the ones who tried to help. A whisper came next. "They are the only ones we spared. The rest, we left behind." A final message appeared on every screen. This was not about victory. It was about remembrance. Let the galaxy remember what happens when it chooses silence over justice. The screen went black. Permanently. Every network that received the message shut down. Earth had sent its final transmission. And then, it disappeared. No one knows where they went. No ships. No Broadcast. No signals. Earth was no longer responding. Some believe they sealed the planet. Others say they went deeper into space. Beyond known maps, building something else, something new. Others feared they were still watching, just waiting for the galaxy to forget again. But no one forgot, because the stars now carried ghosts. Every trade route whispered their name. Every station told their story. Children were taught about the day humanity stopped being human, not as a warning, as a law. On the quiet world of Avali, the little alien girl looked up at the stars after the video ended. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She simply whispered a single word: sorry. Her grandfather nodded behind her. So softly, he almost didn't speak at all. I wish we had said that before it was too late. They sat in silence together as the wind brushed past them like an old breath, and the stars, once so bright, now watched in silence.